All right, hello everyone. Today I'm just using the platform to share how amazing God has been to me. I was listening to a sermon just now, and it caused me to look back on my life to realize where I'm coming from and where He's brought me from. So, growing up in Jamaica, one of the things was I didn't go to school very close by. Like there was a community school, but for some reason, um, that wasn't the plan my parents had for me, or I'm not sure how the decision was made, but that wasn't the plan. So I went to school two taxis away. For distance wise, it's like 20 minutes away. And for a kid to get up and do that every day, it teaches you a level of responsibility because at some point you have to do it on your own, and then go from there. So in Jamaica, we have communal taxis. You get in as a child, you probably sit on someone's lap, and then you get there and you go to school. And one of the things you look at that, I look back at that and I'm like, seeing other circumstances. Growing up, you wouldn't know any different, but seeing other circumstances and hearing other stories, you realize that it had to have been God's protection that made those however many taxi rides, however many years of going to school to get there safely. And then from there, another lesson, the school was in, I would say, a bad neighborhood. Everyone that heard of the school always heard bad things about it. And in terms of where the you went to high school after that, it was very limited in terms of very few people were able to make it to one of the top schools from that beginning. And I remember going there years upon years, and I always saw persons be the top candidate and getting to go to mining school. And then from there, I was like, okay, this is a really challenging school, but I can make it. And by God's grace, I want to say by God's grace because to have that ambition that early as a child, many kids are still just wondering what's for lunch, what's for dinner, what they're gonna have for dinner, and from that tender age, I knew where I wanted to go to high school. I knew that I had to work hard, and then that inspiration, I was like, it could have only been from above. The divine, as the sermon was saying, the divine assignment, where just by the calling upon your life, you'll feel compelled to move and to do certain things in a certain pattern, a certain time. Going to that school was never easy. I was among the top candidates of that school. However, each year I had to remember that I needed to work hard and I had a vision and I had things to do. And that inspired a curiosity in me, where whenever many students didn't have the fortunate nature of having textbooks. But when my parents got the book list, they would always buy the books as soon as they could. And then that would give me 3 to 4 weeks to have the material. And my curiosity always compelled me to go through those books, see what's coming next. And from there, it put me at an advantage to be prepared for when the next grade started, to be exposed to it, and then to go from there to excel in class. So with that, that was a blessing in and of itself, because with not a lot of kids being able to afford textbooks, it made a difference in how things were and how I perceived my blessings, and realizing that I was indeed blessed and I needed to make an amends with it. Another thing was that growing up with poorer parents, you see their struggle. And one of the things that inspired me was I never wanted my parents to struggle all the days of their life. I wanted at some point for them to be comfortable and happy in what they did and were able to do. And that also reinforced, like coming home, seeing the struggle, it reminded me that, hey, when I go to school tomorrow, I have a mission, I have a purpose. I am doing this so my parents can relax, recover, and not spend all their life working to provide for me. So that inspired me. But then a big turning point was in, I think, grade 5 or 6, or 4 or 6. We were towards the side of the school that faced the neighboring community, where there was a lot of violence. And I remember one day hearing gunshots ring out, and then as a child, you haven't encountered what death is or what it means for somebody to die. But that moment when I realized what had transpired, I realized that, okay, yes, I'm working to a goal, but then it inspired a sense of urgency to be like, what if I was to pass before the I achieve what I'm hoping to achieve? And that further inspired me to be disciplined. But looking back at that, I was like, violence was just the community over, and just one community across, you were in a safe space, which was the school. Thankfully, nobody thought of harming the school. But that, to be so close to that and still make it out, you're like, who could it be? Because that, if the violence was there at any point, that could spill over onto the campus of the school. And luckily, that never happened. It happened around the school, but it never spilled over onto the campus of the school to the point where parents, teachers, or children were affected. However, just that protection and that awareness of the fact that you're that close to it and to be protected from it in your innocent years. Looking back, anything could have happened. Any unfortunate situation could have happened. And I just want to give thanks to the Lord for bringing me through that and bringing me away from that. And then all the blessings that has come after that. I just want to give thanks for all of those, because it could have been so much different if it had not been for the coverage and the prayers of my parents. Because one thing with my mother, she wouldn't go to church, but she always prayed. So I knew she believed in God. She just probably didn't feel the camaraderie of the church, or she didn't feel the commitment to the building of church. But she always prayed, and even whatever the prayer was, she would always be diligent in prayer each and every night. And I thank her for teaching me that, because whatever the situation is, prayer has helped me to get through it. And I know that someone out there might be thinking, okay, cool story, how does that apply to me? It applies to you in understanding that, oh, if you've made it to this situation, you are blessed, because there's a lot of things that could have gone wrong that were prevented or did not go wrong. And at any point, things might change, but the protection of the Lord has always been with you, and He's always there, just a prayer away. And even before I knew what prayer was, God has been looking out for me. And each and every day, I try to honor Him with my prayer. With the other thing that today's sermon was about is to be amazing. Whatever your hand finds to do, be amazing at it. You may feel like it's just average, but if you're amazing, everyone will know, and everyone will be astonished to see how you are performing with what God has blessed you with and what is to come. All right. Thank you.